So first of all, Nicholas Gluba, thank you for joining us. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself before we begin?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, by the way. And so I'm Nicholas Gluba. I was born in Iowa City, grew up largely in Lone Tree, the town that I currently reside in, actually, and then on my parents' cattle ranch in between Williamsburg and Parnell, Iowa. Just grew up and went to school, all those kind of things, helped my parents on the ranch. Then Tuesday, September 11th, 2001 happened. I'd seen what had happened there and decided that I needed to do something about that. Joined the United States Marine Corps. Went out to California, which was my first time really ever leaving the Midwest. Went out to California, trained with the Marines. Then, like most people of my generation that joined the military, we went over to the Middle East. I went over to Iraq, and once I was over there, I'd really seen that what we were doing wasn't really benefiting us as people over there. It wasn't benefiting the Iraqis. It was legitimately only benefiting the multi-billion-dollar war profiteering corporations that were here in the United States. And I developed an extremely anti-war stance from that. But after that, came back. Me and my wife, we got a place in Iowa City, just worked odd jobs for a while. Then decided we wanted to go back to where we live now in Lone Tree, because my great-grandparents and my grandparents both lived there. And I understood that my great-grandparents, they were going to need some help, ambulatory issues and whatnot. Then my grandparents were getting towards that age where they were also going to need some assistance. So I was like, all right, we'll just buy a house kind of halfway in between the two. That way, if either of them needed some help, I'm a minute away. After doing that, I decided, seeing things around town, I was like, some things here could use a little help. Go ahead and run for city council. So I'm on city council in Lone Tree now. As far as my other jobs outside of city council, I work for Whirlpool, the appliance company, over in North Liberty, Iowa. We're a warehouse that houses the specifically bottom mount freezer refrigerators. And then we ship those internationally and throughout the United States domestically as well. I'm also the chef at the Price Creek Event Center in Amana, Iowa, because friends of mine, it was their dream to own an event center, and they had asked me, they were like, hey, you're a chef, could you help us out? And I was like, of course. Friends of mine asked me to do something. If I'm physically capable of doing it, I'm going to.
Right.
So, did that, as well as other civic things. I'm the Johnson County Chair for the Libertarian Party, as well as the District 1 rep for the Libertarian Party, which kind of accelerated my business in the political atmosphere.
So do you find that you still have to explain the Libertarian Party to people?
We do. We're still a young party. We're much smaller than the other major parties, but we are growing. And that's something that I've noticed a lot on when I'm at some of these events, county fairs, state fairs, doing parades, or just other activist work. And we are starting to get a lot of people who are like, oh, wow, it's the Libertarians. Neat. I know a little bit about you. And I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. Because when I started in the Libertarian Party, people were like, the Librarian Party? Like, no, we're Libertarians. A little bit different. But
So for those who aren't familiar or don't understand, what is the kind of briefing that you give them?
So we're a party that believes fundamentally all people should have the rights, liberties, and freedoms to do whatever they desire to do, so long as it does not negatively affect the rights, liberties, and freedoms of anybody else. Essentially, that boils down to, if you're at your home, on your property, do what you want to do. We don't want to stop you from doing it, and we don't understand why anybody would want a government that did.
Right, and then so this race has changed a lot for you now that, the Libertarian has been removed from the ballot. How does this adjust your campaign or affect your campaign?
Well, So a lot of it before was just getting my name out there in a very, very broad sense. Now that it's a write-in campaign, we've had to change to, I have to have a lot more direct with people that way I can speak to them directly. There's 698,000 people in Iowa's 1st Congressional District. If you figure in roughly half of those would be of voter age and in the area, and then another 40 to 45% of those would be registered voters. That means I have to very, very specifically talk to about 150 to 210,000 people directly. So been doing a lot more on that and a lot more focusing on getting myself directly into smaller groups instead of just the broad campaign things.
And then switching gears here just a little bit, we've seen an escalation in the Mideast recently. You've talked a lot about the U.S., the involvement overseas. How are you assessing this situation, and what would you be advocating for right now if you were in Congress?
I would very strongly advocate that the United States stops funding foreign wars. We don't have the money to do it, and that just escalates things more to the point where it would eventually bring what would be now my generation's children into a war effort in the Middle East. And a lot of people from my generation are very familiar with how the Middle East goes because we were there, and we would like to not see our children go there as well, and break the cycle, because our parents' generation was also in the Iraq Middle East area. Then our generation got brought into the Iraq Middle East area, and we would like to see, or I would personally like to see, my children's generation not have to go through that as well, not go into the Middle East.
So would that be a reason why it's just so important to you, this whole breaking the cycle? Could you talk more a little bit about breaking the cycle?
Absolutely. We've just, as a nation, we've just been funding wars and bringing our own children to wars all over the world, but in the Middle East more specifically as of recent. We're sending our children over to the Middle East to not do anything that actually benefits Americans back here at home.
Right, okay, yes. And so I liked what you were saying about breaking the cycle. That's really interesting. And then is that an issue that you're hearing from voters, that they're feeling the same way?
Absolutely. I know, in my area, so I live, it's about 20 to 30 minutes south of Iowa City. I hear that a lot, and I've traveled throughout the district or just Iowa, and I've actually been through Western Illinois a lot recently too, for non-campaign related things, just because this is also a nice area to drive around in. A lot of people, it's a very growing concern that as of right now, we've had 2 generations of U.S. citizens going over to the Middle East to fight in a war, and they don't want to see a 3rd generation have to do that. And I would really, really like to see the United States stop being so involved with foreign wars that don't benefit us. When we're looking at it right now with Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and we're sending billions upon billions of dollars there. Israeli-Gazan, Israeli-Palestinian, and Israeli-Lebanese conflicts right now, more billions of dollars. And right now, it's just money, which we don't have, but it will, if we continue down this path, escalate to no longer just being money and also being our U.S. troops being sent over to those areas.
So for the voters that are, voicing these opinions about this and agreeing with you on this, how do you plan to address?
So my entire plans in Congress would just be to be a loud voice with other congressmen and women against using U.S. military intervention throughout the entire world, Middle East and Eastern Europe right now very specifically, and to absolutely shoot down any votes, because going to war is a congressional act. Once the vote comes, shoot it down and convince as many others that we do not need to be war profiteers anymore. We can just sit back, build our country back up. We don't have to involve trillions of dollars and thousands of lives outside of the United States.
So then if you are elected, you would be representing Iowans and a lot who aren't libertarians.
No, we're the smallest major party in the state of Iowa. You look in registered voter totals, you have your Republicans, then you have Democrats, and then there's a fair significant drop and you have libertarians.
So how do you plan to, represent all of?
So the libertarians do have a really, really neat stance in the fact that we have a lot of ideals that line up with the Democrats, especially on the social aspects, and then we have ideals that line up with your more conservatives, especially constitutionalists, on our fiscal aspects. As far as social aspects go, as LGBTQ rights, we're incredibly supportive of all of that. Marriage, anything like that, it boils down to really, if you want to do it and it doesn't hurt anybody, go for it. But then on the conservative side, we believe in a very, very tight fiscal conservatism, cutting a lot of the overspent government bureaus and departments that we can't afford any longer as a nation. We're about to clear $36 trillion in debt in the US, which is an amount that if you break that down to each person in the United States is approximately $181,000. So roughly another mortgage that you're now just holding because the government can't control their own spending.
And furthering on that topic of if you are elected, you're walking into a room full of Democrats and Republicans, right? So how do you kind of plan to create a support system?
It's actually not that difficult you just have to find things that connect with the person that you're talking to. If I was going to be talking with a conservative person, I would bring up the conservative aspects that I believe in. If I was going to be talking with a more liberal person, I would bring up the social aspects that I believe in. So that way we could open that line of communication. Once that line of communication is opened, then we can start discussing different policies and whatnot that we can enact to help steer the country back into a more prosperous area.
And then say, if you're not elected, what is the positive that you'll be taking away from everything?
One, there's a lot of lessons that we have definitely learned already. So we know things that we'll have to change as a party as in the state central committee here in a couple of years, along with we'll know a lot of different things that we can change for elections next year or just much more local elections. We're developing better campaign strategies as well. And another thing that we've been working really, really hard on is even if we don't win, we will at least get enough populace behind us that the other two parties will have to look and be like, okay, they're getting pretty big. We need to start paying attention to what they're doing and start headed towards that course.
Okay. And then my last question would be, is there anything else that you feel people should know, or that I should know?
I really can't think of a whole lot right now off the top of my head, but like I've said, we're working very, 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 very hard to get people to go with a write-in candidate. There has been winning write-in candidates in U.S. Congress before. One of them was one of the longest sitting candidates and congressmen of all time. I do believe there was two, and yeah. So the write-in candidacy is still very viable. You just have to remember to spell the names very correctly, which I know in the area where this airs at, my last name is pretty heavily recognized. My first name is just common spelling, so not too bad, but. And also, I'd like to, help people go to. I have a website. It's glubaforcongress.com. take a look at that, see if there's stuff on there you like, and that also directs you to my phone, my email. So.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
and
you.
of course, thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.